Welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The second meeting of OECS Council of Ministers of Education concluded here earlier today, Wednesday, October 19, 2016, and has been deemed a success. At the closing ceremony, OECS Ministers of Education shared their thoughts on topics and recommendations coming out of the two-day meeting. We hear more in this report from SVG-TV's Nikita Tony.
After 2 days of deliberation, Ministers of Education across the OECS sub-region concluded the second OECS Council of Ministers of Education meeting today, Wednesday, 19th October 2016. Highlighting some of the key issues discussed during the two-day proceedings, Chairman and SVG's Minister of Education, Sinclair Jimmy Prince, noted that along with the various ministers, the meeting also saw the involvement of major developmental partners who are all instrumental in developing recommendations which will lead to a better enriched education system.
Of a regional behavior management policy for adoption, proposed the adoption of a regional approach in seeking to address the issue of student dropout. That's under student participation. We also looked at teacher quality, recommended the establishment of a minimum benchmark requirements for entry into the teaching service across the region, mandated the OECS Commission to undertake a study to review existing pay scales for teachers with a view to developing a harmonized pay scale, because some ministers were fearful that because of the gradient from the highest to the lowest, that you may have some countries benefiting more than others because people would go to where the pay scales are higher.
Noting that there has to be a more cohesive approach in how education is handled, Antigua and Barbuda's Education Minister Michael Brown said there must be a greater working relationship and collaborative partnership across the sub-region with special emphasis on shared resources.
We're going to put forward, redouble our efforts in coming forward with a strategic approach to addressing the issue of dropout rates within our schools. Having recognized the importance and need for the development of a human resource is the significance of setting the benchmark for minimum requirements for persons who are going to be hired as teachers. Agreed as ministers is that we will invite the OECS Commission to undertake the study of review of existing pay salaries for teachers, for principals, for deputy principals, and other persons working within the field.
Grenada's Minister of Education, Anthony Boatswain, called for a better alignment between the education system and the world of work, noting that there has to be more attention paid to educational funding.
On creating that environment where our people could become more involved in production rather than just consumption. So while we do admit that resources are scarce, we have to prioritize. We must not forget that education is the foundation of any society. We cannot move forward. No country can rise above the level of its educators. And therefore, I believe that more resources should be put into education from our local budget and in cooperation and collaboration with regional and international partners. We have to harness those resources in order to ensure that more of that will go into the education system.
Highlighting the need for ministries to utilize the use of information technology communication, ICT, in teaching and learning in a way of making subjects more interesting and friendly, St. Lucia's Minister of Education, Dr. Gail Rigobert, commended the efforts now being made to enhance technical and vocational studies and skills across the sub-region.
We need to keep in step with those technological developments and to ensure that our students themselves are appropriately skilled to function in an e-world, so to speak. As small island states that suffer from particular vulnerabilities, we need to find a way to encourage our students to become more au courant with who they are, what they are required to do, and what it means to be a productive citizen in a small democracy such as ours.
The recommendations made at the meeting will now be presented to the various authorities in each nation and hopefully adopted to create a more developed OECS education system.
Outlining free movement as a tenet of unity, Acting Director of the Regional Integration and Diaspora Unit, RIDU, Maxwell Charles, highlighted the importance of the work done by the Ministers of Education across the region, noting that these personnel are in a position to greatly influence the growing minds of the region. Charles urged all participants at the second OECS Council of Education meeting to remain committed to achieving the great development of the region.
RIDU is fully on board, and we stand ready to assist in the forward propulsion of the process. It is imperative that we view ourselves as one family as we discuss issues such as free movement among our people. We must not be timid or pessimistic or afraid to address new challenges to any aspect of unity in the OECS. Each ministry must be an effective instrument that must be used to shape and deepen the process of unity among our OECS states.
Charles also urged the delegates to remain committed to the regulations which govern the Treaty of Basseterre as a way of safeguarding free movement for all nationals of the OECS.
Issues of healthcare, housing, ability to purchase property, and education, mainly of our children, banking, credit unionism, telecommunication, the environment, maritime matters, external trade, foreign policy, and national security. We have made tremendous gains in the above-mentioned areas. These gains must help to oil or lubricate the freedom of movement across borders. We must help to make stronger bonds among our peoples. They must help us to face external challenges that threaten to reverse our economic and social gains that we made over the years.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has announced that he has secured some $10 million in soft loans and a further $800,000 to purchase 25-seater buses to transport the nation's children. On the radio on Tuesday, following his return from the ROC, the Prime Minister outlined that for too long, many of the nation's students have been facing difficulties getting to and from school because of a lack of transportation.
10 million US in soft loans. That's about 27 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. Then there's a separate $800,000 for us to buy some school buses. In fact, Julian is trying to source some, along with the people at the embassy already. I spoke to him even from overseas, because we need it. And I'll talk more in detail about that. We need to make sure that the children who are to be transported, we don't have the amount of hanging around for 2 hours or so at grammar school area, the girls' high school area.
The Prime Minister said he is confident that the additional buses will help improve the transport system for students.
The system we have, we need to make it more efficient, and there's a set of ideas that I have to make it more efficient, and I've discussed them with him as Minister of Transport. I discussed them this morning also with Sir Louis.
Yes.
The government doesn't want to get in the business of running buses, but we have to do something in relation to the school children. You know, we give 75% duty-free concessions for minibuses,
right.
and we have to go beyond now just giving 18-seater concessions. We have to start just giving 25-seaters, and we have to do some special other things to make sure that the children are taken proper care of.
The Prime Minister also announced that the Mexican grant financed $5 million bridge and river defense project at Cumberland will be unveiled tomorrow. In other news, 3 persons today receive university bursaries from the General Employees Cooperative Credit Union Limited, GECO. Daniel Lewis and Kim Joshua, both full-time students of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, along with Shadika Guild, received bursaries amounting to 3,000 EC dollars. GECO's president Kelvin Pompey said the organization continues to show its commitment to developing its members by investing in their education.
What a sound education does is to make you able to position you to be able to work, to be productive, and essentially to develop yourself and to give back to society and community. Consequently, sound education helps to improve the value of your stock as an individual. At GECO also, we do recognize that our investment in education is essentially an investment in GECO. It's an investment in our balance sheet. Because what happens, our students are going to go away, they're going to learn, they're going to develop themselves, they're going to get good paying jobs, and of course they're going to come back and borrow loans from GECO. Our balance sheet essentially is improved as a consequence. And to the contrary, of course, having a sound and educated and well-trained labor force, you would appreciate, goes to the heart of any country's developmental strategy.
Pompey noted that GECO has been investing in education since 1982 and has spent in excess of $2.5 million in granting scholarships and bursaries. And Senior Education Officer K. Martin Jack commended GECO for its continued initiatives in helping persons achieve their educational goals.
Government is serious about equity in education despite competing demands. There has been an increase in scholarship opportunities for students by increasing the government's investment in scholarship. It is indeed the government's aim to have at least 1 graduate per household in the not too distant future.
The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force is currently investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting death of 19-year-old Kyron Sutherland of Sylvester. The youngster was reportedly returning home at around 2 p.m. when he received a fatal gunshot to the head just outside his parents' house. SVG Television caught up with family and friends of the deceased, who described him as an easygoing, respectful person.
Kyron was always a cool person. I always like him, and you could say, just always be good together, make jokes, and I never find him as a bad person. He always, laughing, and the days I would go and I would call him and say, well, Kyron, we want water to drink because I do walk around here, and he never really frowns or anything. Sometimes I wake him out of sleep. I say, wake you up. He say, yeah. I say, just want some water, man. But he always a good person to me. I know. And other people too. But I don't know how, this thing could happen to him.
Kyron always a quiet person. But he loves friends. He will come home with his friends and he cook food and all them sorts. He like nice time. But never a troublemaker. He have respect for the elders and everything like that. He never get in any trouble with anybody. So I can't see why people are doing that. It's either some grudging mindedness or something had to come up for them to do him that. He always a quiet person. Understand? So sorry for all these things that have gone on.
Sylvester was returning home at around 2 a.m. and not 2 p.m. as was previously mentioned. Meanwhile, police earlier this evening had to attend to another crime scene where 32-year-old Edward Estefan, formerly of Brighton, was gunned down. According to reports reaching us, he was shot in the head and foot.
Right, well, the police received information that there was a shooting in Diamond, at this area where we're standing. And when we were called to the scene and we responded, and we met Edward Estefan, the deceased, lying there, and gunshot wounds. Also, we noticed spent shells in the area.
At what time did you receive the call?
We received the call sometime after 3 p.m. this afternoon.
And Superintendent Jackson, this is the second murder in one day. Is this a St. Vincent you recognize?
Well, it is St. Vincent. It's St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have to put measures in place. We know what happened. From time to time, you will have issues of this nature. We are not burying our heads in the sand. We know it's a serious situation. Persons have lost their lives. This is not something that we want. So we just have to push forward and to ensure that we continue to live in a safe society.
His mother, Marilyn Estefan, told SVG-TV News when she received a call from her daughter stating that her son was dead. She could not believe it.
Work, and a friend called me to say they got to drop something home. Well, I didn't take it for anything, but afterwards my daughter called and she said, "They killed my son." I said, "You killed son?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Man, I believe you, man." But I left work, and when I reached up, I saw the police and everybody, and he was already inside of the vehicle, so I don't know.
So when you got the call, you didn't take it for anything?
No, because I left him home this morning. He told me, I said, "Boy, clean the bedroom." He said, "Ma, yes, I can clean the bedroom." And he gave me $50 so he could have a lunch. I said, "You sure?" He said, "Yes." But when my daughter called, to be honest, I know I'm not well, you understand? And getting the news like that, I said, no, Lord, it can't be. So I said, "Girl, I believe you, man." She said, "Yes, ma, they kill him." So when I reach up, I see everybody out here, police and everything, and he already in a body bag.
Lawyers are charged with the responsibility of ensuring social stability and are not bulldogs to be let loose upon their clients' opponents. That's the view of Queen's Counsel Panel Campbell as he spoke on the topic of court-appointed mediation on his Law and You television program on SVG-TV on Monday night. Campbell said mediation was born out of a need to have disputes settled outside of the court, which carries with it many advantages, most notably the restoration of harmony among members of families and the community.
Both parties satisfied that what has resulted from an agreement between them. Nobody has won, nobody has lost. Whereas if you go to a trial, the judge has to rule for one side or the other. Of course, there are cases where the judge may rule for one side on some issues and rule against the same side on other issues. But at the very least, mediation, if successful, restores a semblance of harmony, particularly where there are relatives who are at war. And if the mediation results in an agreement, it usually has the effect of allowing those relatives previously warring to be knitted back together.
The Queen's Counsel advises general public to heed the advice of their lawyer if they suggest the use of mediation to settle their dispute, and this in many cases will be to their benefit.
If you have a matter in court and your lawyer suggests to you that you should try mediation, don't think your lawyer is trying to sell out the case as you may feel, or doesn't feel that your case has strength. No, the lawyer is trying to do what is best for you. Not that he feels you would not win the case, but there are things that the lawyer will take into consideration that may not occur to you. And one of the obligations we have as lawyers is to try and maintain social harmony.
In keeping with its renewed mandate to widen its scope of operations, the SVG National Red Cross Society has undertaken the implementation of a climate change project. The project, which seeks to reduce the impacts to climate change hazards in vulnerable communities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is funded by the UNDP under the Small Grants Program. The project will be piloted in 5 communities: Spring Village, Georgetown, Vermont, Bookament, Sharp, Chateaubelair, Clare and South Rivers. According to the Red Cross, these communities were selected based on assessment following the 2013 Christmas Eve floods that rendered those most vulnerable. The objectives of the pilot project include utilizing participatory rural assessment techniques to conduct vulnerability and capacity assessment in selected communities, development of community vulnerability plans, raising awareness and actions of residents through their participation, and the implementation of a community project to increase community resilience to climate change.